Welcome, everybody, and especially welcome to Berna Lee, who is my guest today to talk about Chinese astrology and the year of the fire horse that we're about to begin, and more especially the end of the year of the wood snake. So please give a warm welcome to Berna. And perhaps, Berna, you could introduce yourself with a brief outline of your studies and the work that you're doing as well.
Okay. Hi everyone. Hi Susan. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I am a Chinese astrologer, which astrology, honestly, it's not a most holistic word in describing Chinese astrology because it covers a lot of different areas. Like we look at the stars, of course, and we look at the environment like Feng Shui, and we do the we do believe in the concept of resonance, so we also do definition, and so it covers quite a lot of different areas than just single dimensionally saying that it's about astrology. But I still struggle to find a word. So in my practice, like I do read charts, I do feng shui, and all of these different techniques. But I also do my research. I have completed my MA research on cultural astronomy and astrology, um, delving into the notion of fate and free will and the Chinese concept of fate and free will. So I was studying into the Western philosophical part and the history, and then I also looked at the Chinese part, the classics, and then I did some of the research with the contemporary Chinese astrologers to see their view and fill in the blanks for the turn of the century. There is like a huge section that was lost because of colonization and also because of the new China regime. Like this astrology practice has been become a gray area, like a feudal superstitious thing if it's not being placed right. And so I personally is doing the research, and also I'm from a family I'm the 45th generation from the Tang royal dynasty. So I'm the descendant of it, and every family member we actually need to practice and also to know the all of these astrological practice and skills. And we have this set of like definition and how the way we read charts and Bazi, and that's how my family lineage is from. And that I've been practicing since I was small, just like my father, my grandfather. But I never really thought about becoming doing this professionally before. I mean, when I was younger, because mostly in my family, it's unlike the contemporary times, like you can see a lot of women astrologer now. But for our family lineage, it's more conventional and traditional in a way that they are only passing it on to the boys. And so like my aunts, like they never really thought about this, or they would be saying that, oh, I don't know anything about it. Like, even though they know, they would be saying that, oh, this shouldn't be something that I do. It's for the boys. Like, I can do something else. And, but for me, I think I have this interest in astrology since I was young, and I was following my grandfather as he was reading charts for people from time to time and doing divination. And then my dad. And so like I kind of like get used to this environment and starting um to get to know and to do the MA, and obviously because of the MA program I started to know that, oh, there's actually something that people like in the academia world, that they don't really have this too, because Hong Kong or China or in the Asian countries as well. I can't say about Japan and Korea, but not a lot of academic works have done in this area. At least in my knowledge of it, there's not much. There is a lot about how astrology being a state affair, because as you know, I'm the royal descendant of Tang Dynasty. I'm also learning it from the state affair kind of way because it was very centered, and that's why we have to learn about it. But for me now, I feel like I want to do it in the perspective that is from a researcher's perspective, so I can liberate or make this I can make this practice to have less filtered of the state, but more about how, as an individual, we can make use of these knowledge and these wisdom to help us to find that highest potential and not looking at it with certain filters necessarily. It's hard, like we are all human and we have our worldviews and our socio-political backgrounds and our cultural backgrounds that it's hard to not have that filter. But I think it's important to have a start, to start looking at it as not necessarily as a state affair, but it can be also something that we can thrive in. So that is like my practice and my passion. And I'm also doing my PhD now on this very similar area. And my topic is the continuity and the transformation in Chinese astrology. So it's about relational cosmology from imperial thought to contemporary practice. So basically from my ancestors to me.
That's huge.
Like this culture or this evolution, not just
Mm,
not me, but then it's like the world that I'm living in.
right.
How
Right.
do I um how do I how do I acknowledge and give voice to the contemporary astrologers, Chinese astrologers mostly, that how are they embodying this practice, this age-old practice, this like very time-honored practice? How do they embody it in our day and age? And how is this inherited knowledge system and the contemporary experience interacts and evolve? And this is what I am interested to know and
Yeah.
to study into. That's a very long introduction.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, and also just the Western mind boggles at the the length of the generational tradition that you're coming from. It's hundreds of years of handing down one generation after another. As you said, it was more through the male lineage, but I think also it's a sign of our times that the female energy is somehow having a resurgence, and it feels like you're almost learning how to give yourself permission to be
Yes.
the female astrologer.
Yeah.
And that's very, very welcome because I think also the female attitude to life is very subtly different or sometimes extremely different to the male, meaning masculine, not necessarily men, but the
Yeah. Yeah.
masculine attitude to life. And that's fantastic. And that's also why I was very excited to have you on. Um, yeah, what you're describing in terms of the tradition of Chinese astrology and the way the lineage is operating and the different ways of pulling in information is very, very similar to Jyotish and to the Indian approach. It is really strikingly similar in so many ways. You know, you can go to an Indian astrologer and they'll pull out shells, especially in the South. You know, so you're
Mm.
talking about using divination tools like shells and things.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can find that in India too. And I feel like there must have been just a kind of a twinning at some point. There's maybe this kind of sharing of attitudes
Mm.
around the whole thing for a very long period of time before
Mhm.
colonial times, I suspect.
Right.
And there's that shared experience too, which is the colonial experience, which denigrated anything local and traditional. It was necessary to feel more powerful, to denigrate any long-standing traditions or wisdom, partly also out of bigotry and ignorance, but also out of a need to oppress and
Mm.
suppress. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really, again, another parallel that I find between India and China, and that experience between the two cultures is extremely strong. And in
Right.
the same way, Indian astrology, I find like I might be off here, but my sense is that with Indian astrology, it's also being used in Ayurveda, for example, when we
Mm.
do consultations, when we look at a person, we also want to keep in mind what they're going through in life. And certainly you do the same in traditional Chinese medicine. You add in Feng Shui, which is called
Yeah.
Vastu Vidya in the Indian tradition. And none of those areas can really be separated out. And I
Hmm.
find it fascinating that both cultures take the same kind of track and that
Mm.
both are having this really powerful resurgence that is honoring a tradition that was, again, suppressed, especially with reference to the
Mm.
medical systems and the astrological systems. So I'm
Right.
super excited for your PhD work and for looking at that evolution through time and whatever
Mm.
you can discover there. And today I wanted to maybe give a little word of honor to the wood snake, the year that we're closing out. If you want to share your thoughts on this notion of the handover of one year to another and what
Hmm.
that represents. And as a corollary to that question, it feels like, or maybe I've misunderstood, but I think not only are we entering into this new year of the fire horse, but it seems also to be overlapping a much bigger time shift of a larger cycle. So it's not just the 60-year cycle, but it seems that it's part of a bigger cycle that's beginning. Can you either correct me or help me understand what that's all about?
Okay, yeah, I will try. It's a very immense correlation going on. But when we're talking about today, I think it's such an interesting coincidence that today it's like the in the official Chinese lunisolar calendar, this would be the last day of the snake year, the wood
Yeah.
snake year, and then after tonight, like past the Zi. So the Zi hour will be in getting into the fire horse. And but this is only limiting to the official calendar. Like everyone is celebrating this particular day for this transition. But as an astrologer, we look at this beginning of the time on February 3rd. Actually, that would be the day of the actual transition.
Mm.
So if we're looking at the chart, anyone who was born before the 3rd of February, they would be wood snake. And afterwards, it would already be considered to be the fire horse. So
Mm.
right now, we are already in that fire horse energy that is building up. And tomorrow, we will be like starting to settle in to
Mm.
this. Um,
Can you just briefly touch on why there's a distinction there? Because I've heard I follow a Chinese astrologer, he's in Malaysia, but he
Mm.
also said, oh, don't be fooled. It's actually the 4th of February that we're starting the new year. It's not now, or 3rd to the 4th overnight. And I
Yes.
thought, oh my gosh, well, where does that come from and why is it so different? And why are we only hearing about this particular handover?
Um, I think not a lot of like, oh, if you are an astrologer, you would kind of like know that this is the point of the beginning of spring because in our Chinese calendar we have 24 um solar terms
Mm.
that this 24 solar terms is actually coined in the UNESCO heritage the intangible heritage um part of that. And but to be honest, it is not just the solar term, it's solar luni, like
Mm.
lunisolar calendar. But it's easier for people to understand, I suppose. So like it's called the solar term generally, that we look at the moon cycles and also the sun cycles to kind of like identify 24 different segments of time through the year that before in the ancient times they were important festivals for farming because China was a farming society and farming meaning economy. And so they need to look at the weather and what does it do? How does it affect our environment? Does our environment affect the people on that land? And which direction we are at and what do we have to look out because in Feng Shui we also look at how that particular time and will affect everything else and including us human beings. So that 24 segments of solar terms is very important. And this beginning of spring, it's actually one of the solar terms that is like the beginning of this new year sort of time. And
It's
so
almost like an energetic feeling, isn't it? The early part of February feels different. Energetic.
definitely, because I would say that maybe approximately 10 days ago, like 10 something days ago, some people might already starting to feel that horse energy coming in, and you can feel it in your body because the nature, like the seasons and everything, is starting to change, and it also affects us as a human being. And so the horse here is a lot of fire. It's very fiery because when we look at the year's chart, we will usually look at the February 3rd or 4th, and like at each year, it kind of like slide a different date slightly. So
Mhm.
we'll look at it differently. But this year, it is for the heavenly stem and the earthly branch. It is fire, fire, metal, wood, and then earth, metal, and then fire, fire. So like with this, um, with the whole heavenly stem and earthly branch, I didn't talk particularly about the characters, but I'll explain it to you. I just talked about the quality of it because it will be easier to understand. You can see that there is a lot of fire in this chart
Mhm.
for the year's chart that is read on the beginning of spring. Um, fire fire year will usually, like historically, there is a lot of wars, a lot of so-called chaos, and um, for the year of the horse, maybe when you kind of like so-called clashing with the same birth year, like your birth year with the current year, if they are the same, a lot of people will be describing it as some kind of clash. Um, but I just want to let you know that clashing, a lot of misunderstanding out there, it's that it's bad or like it's
Yeah.
bad luck. But not necessarily because
But could we use the word stimulating instead of clashing?
that's a great word. Or
Just
in
speaking from a fire horse perspective.
right, yeah. Stimulating, definitely, because of the fire horse here is very intense. It's very fiery, it's very high voltage, it's very fast, and things are coming in a rush, and then you'll see that result really quickly. So things are moving very fast, and the year is, and you yourself is. So in a good way, if you're a fire horse in a fire horse year, I haven't been looking into the I'm not talking about the personal chart,
Mm,
but it's just one of the elements that is in
mm,
there. So it is almost like the weather this year. It's not
mm.
like a weather forecast, it's a
It's the
general direction.
background energy that we're just
Yes.
inhabiting, I guess. Hmm.
Yes, yes, the background energy of it, but not to the personal details of how, what kind of tools that you can use, what kind of timing that you can use, that we have to look into the details of the reading. But just to look at the general direction of it, the weather of it, it's that you are your fire, it's also in the fire. You are the same element, so
Mm,
you can, it's okay that you're not going to get hurt because you're fire already. And you are charging through with the bigger current.
mm,
So maybe your body or like your heart or like your mind, it's feeling that rush that you have to catch up.
mm,
And so burning out, it's a real thing this year
mm,
that you have to pace yourself when you are planning, scheduling, doing things, taking on projects, and do pace it out and
mm,
prioritize rest whenever you can.
mm.
So fire is really, really strong. And so especially I would say that water is really important. That's why in
In a
water
literal way, you mean like
like
drinking
you have to
water?
drink water, of
Really?
course.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Mm,
And also, water element would
mm,
be very useful if you want to relax a little bit
mm,
or slow down your system a little bit. So water and metal would be very helpful. But again, we have to look at the personal natal
mm,
chart to make sure that that is exactly right. But the general direction, it is the water and metal. It's good for anyone who is feeling that burnout because
mm,
it is very similar um, things that is happening for all others zodiac sign,
right.
especially the year of the fire horse, and then um, the horse, the year of the dog, and the year of the tiger. Like these three has that charging energy
Okay.
more intensely than the others.
Mm.
And then for the year of the rat, that will be a little different because it's on the opposite side of the sign. So it's kind of like this kind of clash. It's different than the clash that the horse and the dog and tiger, it's going together with the current of the fire. Like we're charging towards into the year. But for red, they're on the opposite side of the sign. So it's kind of
Mm.
like coming in and they're coming into the year, but the horse is like kind of making
Pushing
them
back.
feel, yeah, literally feel more stressful.
Mm.
But that is exactly not like a bad thing at all. So like we
Mm.
have to look at it as they will be giving themselves a lot of pressure
Mm.
and but these pressure or situational pressure that is making them um taking on to a change like a very bigger change or a bigger movement whether they
Mm.
are moving to a new city or changing a job or doing something new um or health situation that they have to take care of, that they have to take a break or something. But these are all the so-called the life lesson
Mm.
and opportunities that is lying in that challenge of how we can learn from this opportunity
Mm.
this time around. And and so I think these the year of the rat, the clashing, we can look at it as an opportunity as well. And the year of the horse, tiger, and dog, we have that charging energy, and so we do need from time to time the water and metal energy. And when we're looking into the calendar, you can see that in the first half of the year, it's going to be more intense because it's all fiery months.
Mm.
But towards autumn time and winter time, there will be more metal and water. And so that would be a little bit more relaxed time for like generally. And when I look at the summertime, I saw that there is this sun eclipse somewhere in
Oh, in
August.
August, yeah. We have the
Yeah.
12th and the 28th of August. We have
Mm.
eclipses, yes.
28th, yes.
Mm.
28th,
Mm.
we have a moon eclipse. And 13th, we have a sun eclipse.
Mm.
And so around that time, there there might be some like some of the chaotic situations and like of course astrologically I'm not saying that like putting words out there that oh there's gonna
Yes,
be
yes.
chaos like it's like a possibility of like something that might be happening and so these are some of the timelines that I see, like
Mm.
August and summer. These would be a little bit more work that we have to do. And then
Mm.
towards the end of the year, around autumn time and winter, it will be feeling a little bit more gentle,
Mhm.
relatively to the rest of the year.
Mhm.
Um,
Is that
and
just for the signs that you mentioned, just for the animal years that you mentioned, or is that in a general sense for everyone?
in
Mm.
a general sense, and including the animals that I mentioned, it will be
Mm.
more intensely felt with
Ah.
this timeline.
We can't get a break. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yes. So when you were talking about the bigger cycles, it's interesting because um, in Chinese astrology, we do talk about 甲子. So 甲子 is every 60 years, there's a cycle, like a 60-year cycle, and then every 360 years. So every 360 years, so 180 years, there's a bigger cycle.
Mhm.
And so when we're looking at it, we also refer back to the last 60 years and see what happened at the time. And we can kind of like have the sense of direction of what happened and, what's happening now. I'm not saying that it's a determined thing. Why do I look into fate and free will in my research? It's because I think not that I think in my research to talk
Hmm.
about how being relational is important in chart reading and in understanding that we have an extent of free will. Because during these cycles, it's almost like what's that called? Like not a spiral, but like going up, kind of like a helical. I forgot that word.
A
Um,
helix. Is it the
Ah,
helix?
helix, yes,
Yeah.
a
Hmm.
helix. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like if you're looking at the top down, it looks like you're coming back to a cycle, the same place. But then every time if we're coming back to the very similar spot, although it looks like it's the same spot, but then you are actually having this time to choose again, like what do you
Mm.
want to go, which direction you want to be heading to. And this year, the fire horse year, and also the next year, 2027, the goat year. They are two very much researched in years
Mm.
um, about changes. So historically, there were in Chinese history, there were a lot of um, political big changes
Mm.
happening in these 2 years. And so when we're looking at the older system or big systems, a lot of people will be having that uncertainty about the old system. It's exposing its weaknesses now, and people are seeing it more clearly, and they're trying to discuss it and try to find ways to, to make a better choices for the future. And so that also might lead to, like when a bigger system kind of like wobbles and economy might get affected, and then people's livelihood will be getting affected. And so traditionally or historically, they will be saying that, oh, these 2 years are very chaotic, like there will be
Mm.
big changes and uncertainty. But on the flip side of it, let's look at it this way, that this is a great idea, actually great opportunity for
Mm.
people or community to come together because this is exactly the time point to choose which what do you want to invest in?
Mm.
Where do you want to invest your energy in and your direction in? And that every one of us are going through this very same changes we're charging through. We can see results not that in this particular year, maybe, but we're setting the tone for the years to come, for the generations to come, and what this time we want to choose. And this is a time to really, um, I think, get excited as well, as much as there is, of course, there's uncertainty and there's a lot of grief and there's a lot of unfortunate things that's happening. That's very
Mm.
sad. But at the same time, knowing that there is hope and knowing that we can hang on and to keep choosing what's life affirming will take us to a better place, like if we
Mm.
choose differently this time. So when we're looking into a closer history, 60 years ago, 1966, um, it was a time in if I talk about in China side, Hong Kong side, there were a lot of chaos and uncertainties that was going on socially. I'm not gonna say too much about what happened,
Mhm.
but you probably can will know. But in the US as well, there were a lot of wars that was going on because of the Vietnam War, and there were protests and everything. But at the same time, with innovation, like the moon landed, landed on the moon for the Americans, like there were scientific breakthroughs. So it is really about breaking down or
Mm.
breaking through
Right.
something or breaking open your heart or like
Mm.
breaking something into something new. I
Can I
think like
ask about the
Mhm.
the energy behind that change? Because we have our similar ways of looking at that, very, very resonant with what you're saying in terms of the Chinese cycles. And I'm just wondering, is it the fire element that is part of that sort of inspiration and drive for change and things quite literally being burnt to the ground or being reborn in the fire? Is that part of the story, or is it just a coincidence that it's fire energy?
um it's both. I
Mm.
think of course the fire energy and also the chart of the beginning of spring.
Mm.
Um And also because of the research, like this long-standing research that was done in Song Dynasty actually um, by this author called Cai Meng. So he in his times he was trying to do this research from Shang Dynasty to Song Dynasty, his time, and to tell the king at the time or the emperor at the time that this is the pattern that we are seeing, and maybe it's time for us to make a change, you know. So like
Okay.
that was the research that this astrologer and scholar was trying to do. And
Can you give us a date? That what sort of time period was that?
Song Dynasty, let me just look up real quick the time. Dynasty.
And does
Song
that
Dynasty would be like 1960 to 1279. Um, so it's at the time.
current era?
Yes, current era,
Current
current
era.
era. Yeah,
Okay,
I was
yeah.
trying to look that up.
So does that
Um,
align also with the Bazi, the no the use of, sorry for my pronunciation, the use of the natal chart? Does that align with
oh,
development in that?
that would be in China, at least with the archaeological evidence that we can see now that astrology has been using since the fourth millennium
Mm,
BCE.
mm,
So it has a very long lineage of using and understanding the nature and like human. And so like for um, Tai Mong's book, he was doing the research, his research
mm,
from the historical, like classics and historical books that he could find. I yet to look at his primary source, but but as a researcher, but he was doing it from the Shang Dynasty, so it was like around like 1600 BCE. So it was
okay.
like it was some time ago, like
Yeah,
thousands
yeah.
of years, and he was doing that, and so um come up with this research. And so he was studying intensely in the year of the fire horse and the year of the fire goat,
Mhm.
especially these 2 years in that jiazi. So
So
there were like
every
about
60-year cycle of looking
yeah,
at the fire and the
yeah,
fire
the
horse and
fire
the
the
fire
fire horse
goat.
and the fire goat.
So
Yes.
we're really in something that has been shown or demonstrated through cycles
Yeah.
to be inevitably so.
I inevitably that there's some changes that's going on, that's for
Right.
sure, that energy. But
Hmm.
what is going on, that's unknown still. We have to take part in this
Mm.
cycle, whether you like it or not.
Right.
A
Yeah.
fire horse is charging us to make a decision for
Right.
ourselves and for
So we're
our
creating
community,
as we
for
go
the
through
world.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like every cycle, you can see that it's what's going on. And when we're looking back at the closest 60 years, um, that was what's going on. So there were a lot of uncertainty and
Mm.
also the protest, and people were discovering something that, oh, this is not what I want. Like I want this and that. And so
Mm.
this is a time of doing that. So I think both the research and also the chart, it's showing a lot of fire. And the underneath energy, I want to talk about that background music of
Hmm.
the year. It's actually water, like water from the sky. So that's something I don't think a lot of astrologers are talking about that, but um, which I think it's also important because I think it could be something very positive because think about like water from the sky, it could be nourishing,
Hmm.
but of course, water can nourish, but it also can crash. So
Hmm.
it has a lot of different forms.
Yeah.
It's really something that is very changeable.
So,
Um,
so that notion of water from the sky, so we have the fire horse year for the year animal. And
mm,
again, just to be clear for the audience, that's just one way of looking. We have layers that go deeper when we're looking at any
yes.
event or a person. At the least, you're looking at four different layers of energy. And
Mhm.
now, where does that background of the water come from? What part of the energy field is that coming from?
It's I think sometimes there's a lot of different terms and categories and little sections that I have to uh
You need a whole course each time you mention.
yeah,
We need
almost.
a whole webinar
Yeah,
on.
yeah, on like what is the heavenly stem and the earthly branch? How
Right.
do they interact? What are the combos that they will generate differently? Because like sometimes the combos, when you look at it, it looks like fire, but they actually generate water. And
Right.
then
Oh,
sometimes, so
okay.
there is a lot of different things that's going on in
So
a
the
chart.
earthly stem is fire horse, is it? And the heavenly stem is the water? Is
No,
no,
well,
not
both of
even.
the both of the heavenly stem and the earthly branch are fire,
Oh, okay.
but when I already digest the thing and we do look at the combos, they also have this underlying music. It's um I think it's really beautiful at this term of this category of these combos. It's I am only translating it myself. It's not the
Yeah.
official one. I'm just telling you how I'm feeling about this term or this category.
Okay.
It's music. So
Mm.
it's like music, background music of the year. So it's like background music of this energy. That's a translation. And
Yeah.
it's also how I'm understanding it. That it is like it is not water year, but the feeling of it, it's like a rush of water. And that's why I think a lot of people are saying that there will be fiery year, like volcanic eruptions and all.
Okay.
But there might be also
So we're not talking
something.
about gentle spring showers. We're talking about torrents of water basically coming down from the mountains. Is that the quality of water?
Yes. So this
Okay.
is the quality of water this year.
Okay.
And so,
I'm almost preferring the fire horse at this point then. Okay.
well, but then water can also nourish. So there is
Yeah.
really a double-ended sword in the
Yeah.
way that we choose, and it just amplifies how the extent of free will that the community and each an individual
Okay.
is important at this point because we are. As we are looking at in Chinese astrology, it is also based on the Chinese cosmology. So it
Mm.
is about the heaven, earth, and humanity,
Mm.
the trio interaction all the
Right.
time, like how they move with each other. So it's not necessarily thinking that it's fatalistic or deterministic, a cause and effect, but what we are choosing can also bring us to a new trajectory of
Mm.
where we want to go. And this is exactly the time that will amplify this particular uh, thing that
Right.
we're going through.
And
Mm.
as you mentioned, there is this instability that is present as not just a feeling that might be unsettling, but it is opening us to opportunity, right? Because it's precisely because things are kind of collapsing or not working functionally anymore that we can then move in a new direction or move
Yeah.
into a whole new attitude around us.
Yes, I think I think this is not a very appropriate analogy, but it's just something that's popped up in my mind. It's
Mhm.
that when when a woman or like when a person, not like a woman, but a person, neutral gender, it could be in a very toxic relationship, say for
Mhm.
example, like a physical abusive, mental abusive relationship, like when I think before they decide to leave this relationship, like breaking off with this relationship, there will be a time that is struggle
Right.
that you're not really sure, like whether or not shall I be doing this
Mm.
and what is my future like? And
Right.
like if you don't have that certainty about yourself just yet, you might feel that. And
Mm.
but when once like before that brink of freedom
Yeah.
that they're actually heading to, they'll feel that uncertainty. But after the break, like that is also the dangerous point. Like maybe they'll
Right.
retaliation or maybe there is something
Right.
else that's going on. But I think that analogy kind of like just pops up in my mind. I'm not
It's a
saying that this is
brilliant analogy, I
right.
think. I think it's absolutely inspired because we are in a toxic relationship with with our leaders
I
and with
mean,
a lot of consumer society, so we are at this
culturally,
breaking point,
too.
and
Yeah.
I think that tension for a lot of people is exactly that razor's edge that you're kind of describing. It's like this uncomfort discomfort
Yeah.
before the choice is taken or before the clarity is there.
Hmm.
We have to go through that discomfort to be able to find that courage and the
Hmm.
determination to then
Yes, to
make the
charge
break.
on.
Yeah,
Yes. And this year it gives them the gives us the courage to charge on.
right.
And
And
if we're
in
charging on
this
and
first half, particularly, you think in the first half of the year
Mhm.
specifically, that's the boiling point, as it were, and the second half is more where we feel this sense of, okay, this is where I go with that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Like you're feeling it and you're getting into it, but
right.
we have to charge through it and we can
Yeah,
do this. And,
yeah,
we have to hold on to that energy that that this is going to work and you know what you're choosing.
right.
And, that build that up. And so I think for the year of the horse, you have a lot of opportunities this year. And also the year of the horse and the year of the tiger, you have a lot of opportunities to really do what you want to do.
The year of
But
the tiger or the year of the goat, the fire goat? Which one?
the goat, the tiger, and also the
Oh,
horse,
so for
you have,
those three
yeah,
for those
those
three
three, they
animals,
are very good friends. So like
yes.
these three good friends are charging forward together, and you will have a lot of opportunities,
Mm.
and there will be a lot that you have to do, and a lot of projects that's coming up, and you just need to pace yourself this year.
Just sleep a bit.
Yes, sleep a bit and because like you're feeling the energy, the
Yeah,
passion, and you want to do things, and it's just
yeah,
like one after the other, one after the other. And so it's good to have that passion. So sometimes we need to balance it out a little bit to be able to know that it's part of the progress is
mhm.
rest. I know it's very hard, especially the first half of the year, but try.
Yes, good advice. I think that's really good advice. And I always think in terms of the resting, because I need to keep reminding myself kind of hourly about that. It is where, for example, infants do their growing and where
Oh
we do
yeah.
our healing. And in that resting phase, when my babies were small, you put them down for a nap, and literally 3 hours later, you pick them up and they're bigger. They suddenly don't fit their pajamas anymore.
Wow.
And that's a phenomenon, that's a thing. And this is how I have to remind myself how regenerative it is to step back and sleep and do nothing. And I especially take your advice here in the year ahead because I feel like I'm already in that energy being kind of swept away. Um, I want to just ask you about the Chinese astrology tradition, which I think is perhaps stronger than the Western tradition of looking at omens and looking at, for example, comets and using the shells and different other ways of working with omens, which I think in many ways we've forgotten in the West. That was certainly there, very present before, but in the last couple of hundred years, it seems to have been I don't know, forgotten or disputed as beyond superstition or whatever. I want to point people also to your conversation with Chris of the astrology podcast. So I'm going to link that here because you did a beautiful conversation last year with Chris,
Oh, yeah.
and so this is something that I'm just curious about now, especially because AI Atlas is sticking its little tail into the year of the fire horse as well. And so here we're in a situation where it's going to be exiting our local space or our cosmos, and it's going to be reaching its closest approach to Jupiter somewhere mid-March, around the 16th of March.
Mm.
And then it starts to leave our solar system. And I wonder if there is some connection or something that you understand that, or maybe other Chinese astrologers are looking at as this seems like a very powerful omen that's also coming along with this very powerful year. That's one.
Hmm. That's a very interesting question. The so usually we in ancient times call this the the broom star. So like the broom, it's like clearing the old and
Mm,
clearing the old system or old things that's no longer working. And so it totally aligns with how the year is looking and
mm,
whether it's from the Cai Meng's research, like the Song Dynasty research, or our own contemporary times, like how we look at the years or the closest um, Jiazi, the closest cycle, like 60 cycle, 180-year cycle
mm,
um, study, um, they are all pointing towards the very similar omen, like this omen situation that is that we're looking at the clearing the old, the
mm.
breaking of the old system or old, sorry, I forgot to maybe you need to edit that thing out.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Um,
We're very flexible here. My viewers are lucky if I comb my hair, so don't worry about it.
okay. Yeah, so it actually aligns also with like the broom star, like what it represents, the omen represents, it's also aligned with the what the year is looking historically and also astrologically. Um and yeah, if you listen to the podcast of me and Chris last year, we did talk a lot more
Yeah.
about how in ancient societies, how they look at the sky, like in Terminator, they're looking at the so-called sky
Yeah.
net, you know, like you
Yeah.
look for the information and see like, oh, which direction, who is doing
Right.
what, and like thinking about like how to strategize and is it my time to to get something done and so
Right.
that it's not all bad. It's
Mm,
like opportunities. Like the flip side of it is opportunity, but the
right.
old thing, it's kind of like changing its shape. So I'm not saying that they are totally going to be, be something different, but there is something that is changing, at least the nature of it, or like how
Mm,
they do things, it will be very different. So
right.
there is um, the omen will be indicating that broom star will be indicating that quality.
Okay. I find that again, apologize for the mispronunciation, but the Bazi, the individual
That's it.
natal
Yes.
Bazi, sorry for that. The chart itself of
Mhm.
an individual, I find it incredibly actionable. It's very precise and very specific in terms of what is going to work today, what is not going to work today. Don't do this. It's better to avoid that.
Yeah.
It feels much more powerfully actionable than the
Yes.
Western way of working with astrology, which tends to be I mean, unless you're following your own chart and you look really specifically, it's not going to be as sort of categorical or
Ah,
putting things together. And I've found that very helpful. Actually, I do check mine every day,
yeah.
and it's something I find really really helpful. Just don't waste your energy on this, and go put your energy here. And sometimes that instruction is put your energy here because it's a good day to do nothing, or it's
Yeah.
a good day to reconnect with an old specific things like really
Yes.
actionable stuff.
Yes.
And so it sounds like even just looking at the sky, looking at the comet, it's difficult nowadays because of the light pollution that we have and the
Mhm.
urban noise that goes with being so crowded in towns. But to be able to look at the sky and take that information in a general sense as well and say, well, that actually says I should be doing something different. And over there, it looks like this is a good time to go in this direction. And
Mhm.
I feel like we've lost so much of that intimacy with
Yeah.
what we're looking for in the astrology.
Definitely. I think, well, especially like these days, we have light pollution and like the relationship of us with the sky, it's less than the ancient times. And
Mm,
I feel like even in astrology, I think in Chinese astrology, we do look at everything like the sky and then the
mm,
environment and the people and the economy and, the whole thing, like how they interact with each other.
right.
And that really takes a lot of uh sensitivity in a good way that you have to like not the good or bad, but then that sensing like
Yeah.
you do meditation and you have to connect with the world around you
Mm,
and that sense, but that sense not necessarily only coming from the sky. The sky also gives you information, but you can also sense your environment and what's going on. And I think that part we can all sharpen in a way. Like
Yeah.
before we start the conversation, you guided us to do like a very lovely meditation to be grounded. And I think that was very beautiful. And I also do meditation. I do teach
Mhm.
meditations too. Um, I find that very helpful to settle the system as well as to just connect with ourselves and to
Yeah.
know what is certain inside before we step out and do things.
And that sounds maybe more useful than ever in this energy, from what I've understood from you, and the fire horse energy with
Yes, yeah.
water pouring on top of us. And that feeling of, okay, where am I in this space and time? How are things going around? Like here, just for an example, we have extremely windy days. I'm in Spain during the winter, so we're having excessive wind, and it's been going on for weeks and weeks, and this disturbs the central nervous system.
Right.
Both Chinese medicine and Ayurveda look at this in the same way. It's very disruptive
Mhm.
to the structure and the central nervous system and the immune system.
Mhm.
And so I take that into account as well in terms of what I'm able to do or what I'm able to, my expectations lower when the elements are extreme.
Yes.
Simply because otherwise I have found that I end up pushing myself, and sometimes there's no option. I have to keep going.
Mm.
But when I just step back and then come into that space of silence and the asking for clarity and asking for support energetically, it allows me to say individually without even looking at the astrology, should
Mm.
I keep pursuing this or should I just take a rest and go, do something? Even my dog
Yeah.
doesn't want to go out these days. She's wiser than me. She's like, "Are
They're
you kidding?
very,
I'm
yeah,
not
sensitive
going
to
out."
the environment.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to just ask you a couple of other questions, as I'm aware we're really short on time, and I'm
Yeah.
finding this conversation really precious. So, one thing that came through a couple of the questions from my viewers that I asked them if they would be interested in submitting. I'm going to just generalize so that we can cover the topic, which
Okay.
is to what extent is it actually useful or even possible to combine a look at the Western, say, natal chart and Chinese astrology? My intuition says it's not really possible, and it's better to hold them as a separate indicator or a separate reference point. But I'd love to hear your impressions on that.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you, the viewers' question. I think that is a very interesting curiosity and is like, how do we use it? Can we combine it? Like we have more information now.
Yeah.
And I think um, because I think in my research as well, that I do look into the the history part, the cultural part, the social political part, how it might affect the person and the practice itself. And so it it is like how your worldview will also affect how you read, and also
Mm.
that particular cultural system generate that body of knowledge with a very long history
Right.
on their own. And so it evolves in a way that might not look the same in every
Mm.
society, every culture. So the Western astrology also evolved from a very long history in their own way, culture, social, political, and all of these things. And just as the Chinese or the Indian, so like mixing them, it's hard unless you are very, very familiar with both of the
Right.
worlds,
You
the
have to know
history,
what
the
you're looking
culture,
for.
and
Yeah.
the
Mm.
level of understanding.
Mm.
Or else I think mixing traditions might not be the best,
Mhm.
but you can separately look at them.
Mhm.
And then maybe you can come up with something, but not mixing them to become something just yet, maybe,
Yeah.
unless maybe they are like an expert in this,
Mm.
then I don't know. But I think it is good to look at the particular system
Yeah.
to really respect and honor the history and culture behind it. And also the the astrologer or the person who's reading for you, they have their own practice and evolution as well.
Mm.
I'm not saying AI, I'm not sure that part
Okay.
yet, but then I'm just saying like real like a lineage or like you're learning from a lineage or like you're learning from also your own experience in things like we talk about physical abuse in a relationship that actually happened to me like a long
Mhm.
time ago, and that's why it just
Right.
popped up in my mind that oh,
Yeah.
this feels similar,
Right.
like
But isn't that interesting what you say then? You're bringing in that embodied experience to how you also filter through your astrology understanding. And I find that incredibly helpful.
mm,
Even if it's coming in your original culture from a different place, it's coming through your humanity. And
hmm.
that allows you to make these kinds of similar or assumptions, but lived experience.
Yes,
It's not a random
exactly.
assumption.
Exactly. Lived
Beautiful.
experience.
Yeah.
That I think that lived knowledge, it's something that why I'm passionate about in my research. It's
Mm,
to get to know like each and every astrologer
mm,
too. Like how does your experience affecting you as a person? And like oh maybe you also know about Indian culture and
mm,
other things like history and you are very immersed in that, and so like that also affect how you look at the world,
mm,
affecting your cosmology and affect how you practice.
mm,
And like you were talking about Bazi, the difference between Bazi and categorizing different what in a reading, that is very different. um that is that is just like a something that's different,
mm,
like a kind of like worldview that is more opened. Some
mm,
people find it hard to look at Bazi. I mean, a lot of people, to be honest, because Bazi, it's what I do, but Bazi, it's also more so-called abstract because you have to really work with and play with all those immense correlation to generate what's really going on, to generate that picture, and not having those clear lines,
mm.
categories that this is that, and, or like different
Right.
categories. There's none, and then you have to look at it, and you can see a tiny little bit here and there, and then you have
Mm.
to kind of like come together what it is.
Yeah,
So it
this is
requires
the alchemy that the astrologer brings to the reading, right? This is the way that the astrology is using
right.
intuition and historical knowledge and their own experience
Yeah.
to, in the opposite, it's what I call cookie cutter astrology, which can happen in Chinese astrology or Western astrology, which
Mhm.
is, this planet means this and that sign means this. And we can't actually make a decent interpretation based on that. We need to take all of the aspects that are happening simultaneously and then feed one into another. So you
Yeah.
can't just say, for example, in the tropical zodiac, we've just had Saturn moving into Aries, which I find interesting because it's an overlap of two
Mhm.
Saturn cycles with the fire horse year.
Mm.
Um, and and this is you can't just look at that as a standalone. You have to understand the rest of the chart and the ingress and the
Oh,
rulerships and all of those things to be able to understand, well, what does this particular Saturn in Aries represent for us? And
yeah.
then a lot of that is going to come from the intuition of the astrologer, which is what you're describing, and which is, I think, where we both seem to agree that AI just cannot bring that to the astrology. The AI gives you the data, and it's not refined enough or not subtle enough to
Yeah.
take in all of the other information. What
Yes.
culture is this person coming from? What is are they on their third marriage? Are they 17 years old? All these different things that will give a nuance to the understanding. So it
Mhm.
feels like this is the point I really was so excited about talking to you with, is to really help people understand just how complicated Chinese astrology is and how multifaceted it is, and then to at least understand that the fire horse, or the idea of the fire horse year,
Mm.
is the tip of the iceberg, in the same way as
Mhm.
in the Western way of looking at things. If we say, you describe somebody, let's say, as an Aries sun or something like that. It's just insufficient to describe a whole experience of life.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, I do think that, well, AI and all, they have a lot of information.
mhm.
So they can collect a lot of different information and make it so much convenient for people to really look up, oh, what is the year of the fire horse? What is it? Oh, it's fiery, like everyone is
Right.
talking about that. But what exactly does it mean? How does it interact with us? How does it relate to our personal experience? That is not yet the part that people like online or like on the AI thing can necessarily know just yet, but it
Mhm.
becomes a kind of a hype that people kind of like leverage it and
Right.
in making content about it. So it's like a
Mhm.
again, this is like a I think of it now as a sword with two ends. So you
Mhm.
know more about it. You can talk about it like you can talk about fashion, like, oh, what do we wear in this? What
Yeah.
color do we want to wear for good luck?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can make contents about that. But so it kind of like brings up um that interest in
Mhm.
people that, oh, we want to know more. But
Right.
and then it brings us to this other point. What is this about?
Right, right, right.
And then
We have this expression in English, which is that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Because when you
mhm,
only know a little bit about something, often we come through that early phase of understanding, thinking we know a lot. And when you at least have that humility to say, well, I've learned this amount, but there must be so much more behind it, especially after thousands of years of Chinese
mhm,
astrology. It's not like people are only talking about a year and an animal. Well, it can't possibly be for thousands
mhm,
of years that people are only looking at that. So it's just always a helpful reminder for people to stay in that space of, I don't really know.
yeah.
This might be true. And also with reference to the I don't know if this is happening in Chinese astrology, but in Western astrology, it's giving a lot of misinformation, a lot of mistakes.
It's the same in
Ah,
Chinese astrology. It's the same.
yes,
It's like a booming thing, like as we talked about in um, China, mainland China. This is kind of like borderline gray area and feudal superstition, but
right.
online, it's as a form of entertainment or a
Okay.
cultural thing. People start to form like communities or, like talk about these things and all of the curiosities that is forming. But there is also a lot of misinformation and a lot
Mm.
of like it's so interesting. I see a lot of accounts on Instagram that is like AI operate. I
Yeah.
think I can
They're
see that as
AI
AI operate. Yeah.
individuals, aren't they?
But then
They're
they
AI
have like
generated.
this face and like talking
Yeah.
and like they have that certain information like, oh, it's 5 horse year and I have like 10 years experience.
Yeah.
Like the person is like speaking. And 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 there is so much like this phenomenon. And I thought that was so interesting. And that's
Mm.
why in my PhD, I would be um, interviewing people of like contemporary astrologers, Chinese astrologers, and I want to know what they think, how they feel,
Mm.
and like this is a very interesting phenomenon and times that we are living at, and it's just so interesting that
It's going to
yeah,
be
I
a
wonder.
huge job for you. It's going to be massive. Because you're taking something that has gone from a relatively traditional space, because if I understand correctly, you're going from the beginning of the last century, so from a turn of sort of 1900
Yeah.
to now, and I can't think of a time in history where so much has changed. And my gosh, that's a huge undertaking. But welcome. I really, really welcome that. I just want to check that there are still, because I know there are still questions that are outstanding.
Yeah.
One thing, this is a bit of maybe a bit folkloric, but I was in Bhutan years and years ago. It's a country I love, and
Mm.
I think they're more influenced by maybe Tibetan astrology, but I think there's very much a link, and they still use the same basic Chinese foundations in astrology. But that is where I discovered, or I was told at least by someone, that in the year of the fire horse, the female babies were eliminated because they were considered to be dangerous and unruly.
That's a really great name to spot, and I want you to know
Okay.
that
Truth or dare?
I am very close to Bhutan too. The Queen Mother, it's a very dear friend of mine.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I'm very close with the Queen Mother when they come to Hong Kong, like we visit places and also the Princess Sonam and like it's my good friend. And so like I think yes, Bhutan, it's a very religious and very beautiful
Yes.
country. And I and you mentioned fire horse in reading, like, oh, people are trying to get rid of the female babies, but this is the point of why we need to be relational with astrology.
Mm.
This is why I'm working with what I do. It's
Good.
because you can't just look at, oh, fire horse, the girl, it's going to be a girl boss, okay? Because they are charging through, they are working like a rebel in a way, but in a way that they believe in themselves, they know what they're doing, they
Mm.
want to do it the way they want, make up their own rules. And in the ancient times, it's not good for
Right. It wasn't
patriarchal
welcome, let's say.
society, like
Mhm.
they are, "Oh, I can't control this untamed horse,"
Yes,
like
yes.
so it's like they want someone to be very tamed and
Mm.
listen
Mm.
to them and very obedient. But in our day and age, this is not something that can thrive in this society. You
Yeah,
need
yeah,
someone who can break through veils of like glass windows or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
society standard or these ways of working through a new times, and you need these people,
Yeah.
and you need women to be able to have not that necessary women but femme energy
Yes.
to be able to be more relational with the world and the people around us to be able to do that. So like even like I'm not saying that men or women like an opposing thing, but like the energy that I'm
Yeah.
saying, that the femme energy of that relational part, it's so important to embrace. And
Hmm.
so I think in the olden times, like in the ancient times, like, oh, fire horse, like that's too fiery, like not good, like
Yeah.
you're rebels,
Right,
like
right, right,
and so they don't want girls to be like hard to like to get married or like to
right.
find a husband,
Yeah.
like
Well,
something
having
like
said that,
that.
it's true. Marriage has been a struggle for me, but it's but fair enough. I'm happy with this way. But I find it interesting that it was in Bhutan of all places that I heard that, and they're the only, as far as I know, the only matriarchal society where multiple marriage is still allowed. It's being phased out now in many ways, and also young people are not interested in it. But it's where women get to choose multiple husbands, unlike other cultures where it's been the reverse. And I found that really interesting. It's like this culture where women are sort of the leading edge of society in so many
Mhm.
ways in Bhutan. And that was where I heard that, of course, historically, not now, that the female
Mm,
babies were not allowed. So that's another question that has been certainly burning on my mind for years now, since that's almost 20 years ago that I heard that.
mm.
Um, and I just want to make sure that I'm covering all these questions.
Yeah.
Um,
And just a small reminder, I
yeah.
kind of have to go soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
abused of your time, and I think this might be maybe my question to you would be, what question have I not asked you? And what would you like to leave as a message around Chinese astrology or around the fire horse year that we haven't already communicated?
Hmm. Um, I think for the year of the fire horse, the more the essence of it is like for each and every science would be pacing that I do
Yes.
talk about on my Instagram a lot about
Yeah.
pacing, especially towards the transition of the year that I can feel it personally very intensely. And it's sometimes I think as an astrologer too, like you can read it and you also need to practice it in your own life very rigorously, be able to relate with your clients and to be able um, to work through your own things. And
Right.
it's not like you can read about it and then you can obviously do it, but it's that we have to put in the effort and center it ourselves. So, as you said, I think this year that practice of self-care and the practice of meditation or like to be centered in ourselves
Right.
is and pace ourselves, it's very core to have a more stable year. Um, yeah, I think
Excellent. Thank
this
you,
is an
Berna.
important thing.
I
Yeah.
also want to point out that you do post things on your Instagram
Hmm.
that are little tips and ideas, and the as you say,
Hmm.
the turnover of energy and the signs,
Yeah.
the animals that are affected. That's on your Instagram.
Yes.
Would you just please tell us what that is? And I will also include that in the link below this description below this video.
Yes.
Is that also the best way to get in touch with you? Should
Yeah.
people, yeah? Okay.
My Instagram it's Astromergency,
Hmm.
and my website is also astromergency.com, and I will be putting up very soon. Well, actually, it's already up, but there's just like tiny things that I'm doing with the before the New Year's. So um, I will have each and every zodiac signs report that will be guiding you through, like as we said, it's the weather of the year
Right.
for, this collective weather
Mm.
forecast of your year that I do have month by month focus of how, like, what is the reminder this month that we have to do. And then with that plan, you can write down your own, like, you can use it as a cheat sheet through the year to plan your year around these energy. And I hope that would be helpful. And also, each and every of the zodiac sign has the general, like in your love life, health, and abundance, like all these different categories, the general, the keys will be there. So you can read through that as well. And it will be as the reports are downloadable uh, lessons. So you can check that out. Um, and also, I will be doing this free general horoscope too in the later on that will be on my Instagram and in my website as well. So it's for like a little uh, thing for the new year that will be
Fantastic.
interesting to look through. But then again, it is different than a Bazi reading, like a
Hmm.
natal chart reading, because a Bazi natal chart reading, it's complementary. Like when you look at the zodiac sign as the animal sign of the weather of it, and the Bazi reading, it's really look at your tools that you have and how we can use that tool towards the direction that you want to go. How do we use that? And that is, I think, where I come from. It's
Hmm.
that um
So you
the
offer these personalized readings to clients. You
yes,
can offer that
yeah,
on your
I
website.
do. I do personal charts like
Mhm.
a natal chart with of course my lineage understanding and
Mm.
also my contemporary experience and
Yeah.
how I'm feeling it
Yeah.
and the whole thing. So to be able to support my clients to thrive with their own chart, I
Yeah.
think that's like I don't like to say like, oh, fire horse baby, we'll have to get rid of them. Like
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of
Thank
person.
God.
I want to be able to empower
Yeah.
different energy pattern people. How do we navigate through these cycles?
Right.
It's a lot of work, but I think it's very important for people to understand that there's no like absolutely bad charts or bad years to have babies, but it is in like the other day, my this other client was putting it very lovely analogy. It's that's placemat Chinese astrology, like
I
what you
guess.
see in the Chinese restaurant,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
like
we call that fortune cookie astrology. Yeah.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
fortune
in
cookies.
the Western restaurants, their focus is on these little labels that go in the fortune cookies and
Yeah,
the,
right.
Yeah.
they're fun to read and like a
Yeah.
general direction, it's good and like no harm.
Yeah.
But you can't really just let it affect how you feel and think about the
Yeah.
year. Like, am I going to do this or that? Oh, it's a bad year, it's clashing. And then if you are carrying that energy throughout the year, then everything you do will be filtered by that.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, it's such a bad year. Like I've so much challenges, but yeah, it's like a flip of the same coin, and how we're looking at it, how we can empower people to really make use of what they have. I think it's an important work
And
for
that's where the
everyone.
free will comes in, isn't it? That's
Yes,
where our
yes.
choice points come. Thank you so much for this really generous conversation. I've really enjoyed listening to you.
Oh,
I look forward to seeing your reports. I'll definitely check those out, and I will connect all of your details below this video so people can reach out to you as well. And every success with your PhD and with the Fire Horse year. I don't know what that represents for you, but I wish you well
thank you.
in your year ahead. And thanks very much for being here with us.
Thank you, Susan. Hope to
Okay.
catch up with you soon too.
Yeah, thanks, Berna. Take
Have a
care.
great year.
Yeah,
Bye.
you too. Bye bye.